So good afternoon. We're here with Manny Nodar from St. Mary's High School in Berkeley, California, boys varsity basketball head coach. We just want to say thank you to Manny to start off with, and welcome everybody back to 2totie3towin.com. So today we'll talk about some of Manny's offensive philosophies, some of his basketball roots, and some of his old golden stories from Sacred Heart Cathedral in San Francisco. Thank you for having me, Manny, and look forward to doing more interviews with you.
Well, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. I'm glad. I'm going to miss you in the league, but I'm glad you're doing something that you enjoy. I can tell by that smile on your face you're really happy doing this. So thank you, and I'm honored to do this with you.
Thank you. So first question, tell us how you got started in basketball, your middle school days, and also your high school days.
Okay, well, my story is a little different. I really didn't grow up in a family that sports and basketball was a big thing. I'm a son of immigrant parents. I actually came to the United States in 1980 when I was 10 years old.
From where?
From Spain.
All right.
From Spain. My dad was a construction worker and was unemployed in Spain for about 7 months.
All right.
And then picked up a newspaper and saw that they were hiring in the United States, and he decided to immigrate over in '76, and it took him 3 years to get papers for my mom and I to come over. So we came over in '80, and that's where I kind of started the involvement in athletics. My mom and dad worked all day, so I went to school, and after school I had nothing to do.
All right.
So first thing I picked up was actually started playing just kickball.
No soccer?
No soccer. No, I played soccer growing up.
Okay.
But I was just kind of a kid on my own, just put in the middle of a public school where I really didn't speak a lot of English. So I just got involved with other kids just playing sports.
Yeah.
I picked up a basketball when I was a 7th grader. And for whatever reason, I just became very interested in the sport, watching it, observing, watching our coaches, asking questions. And then a miraculous thing happened, which was I grew from 5'6" to 6'2" from 7th to 8th grade. And then all of a sudden, the basketball coach at St. Bridget's Grammar School was like, "Hey, I think you might be able to play a little."
And what neighborhood is that?
That's over on Broadway in California,
All right.
in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I picked up basketball on a regular basis. I would go to the park during the summer from 9 o'clock till 7 o'clock at night and come home just pass out because I was just doing ball handling, shooting, doing a lot of fundamental stuff.
And that's when kids still played outside a lot more than they do now.
Right. I would go to Sunset Gym. That's down on 39th and Modern. And would play as a 7th and 8th grade. Would play with adults. Try to just fight to get into the pickup games and everything, and kind of had to earn my respect.
Yeah.
And one thing I could do from the beginning was I could shoot. So if you can shoot, you're gonna get on the court.
Yeah.
So that's how I picked up my basketball. Was playing a lot. Went to Sacred Heart High School.
Okay.
And played 4 years there. Worked my way up from freshman up to the varsity and started for 2 years.
Okay.
And then senior year came around and really had one opportunity, which was to go to college in Notre Dame and play basketball.
All right. And who was your head coach at?
It was Al Hobby.
Okay.
Was my head coach for 4 years there.
Yeah.
And he's kind of the guy who got me interested in the coaching.
Yeah.
Just watched, he was a head coach for 30 years, Modesto Junior College.
All right.
And so he had a lot of success. And so I kind of, as I said, some of the stuff that I learned when I was younger about observing and watching, I did a lot of that.
So it ran more like a college system?
Yeah.
While you were there?
Yeah,
Okay.
college system, and it was very intense.
Yeah.
And I was young I graduated when I was 17.
Yeah.
And so I stepped in a situation where he had a lot of guys who were 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
So I had to grow up really quickly because otherwise they take advantage of it,
Yeah.
and that. So I learned a lot from those guys.
And your high school coach, you said, was Al Hobby, right?
No, my high school coach was Tim Burke and Jerry Phillips.
Tim Burke and Jerry Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay. How long had they already been at Sacred Heart?
Jerry Phillips had been at Sacred Heart for 30 years. In his junior years when he retired, he's actually one of the winningest coaches in the state of California.
All right.
And then Tim Burke took over my senior year, and he was the head coach there from 87 till 99 for 12 years.
What did you learn from them at that high school level, as far as X's and O's, philosophies, and kind of what did you see yourself doing after high school?
Well, what I learned from them was that practice was very structured. Practice plans, how the first 30 minutes were spent, because Jerry liked running the UCLA system.
Okay.
So we spent numerous hours just doing the breakdown drills, from the handoff, to the screening and everything. He was very
like pop screen.
Yeah, just everything was step by step. You never skipped a step, and really did not do a lot of scrimmaging. Did a lot of breakdown stuff, and so I took that and brought it into what I do now. Yeah. Spending the first 45 minutes of really doing a lot of breakdowns.
Okay.
What Tim brought in was, when he came in, he changed a little bit of the system. He went more to a motion offense, 5 out, screen aways, those, and kind of let you play a little bit more. It was two different systems, where Jerry was very structured, was station to station, low scores, and then Tim came in, and I think you kind of know this. First years are always tough.
Yep.
So when you've had a structure system, and all of a sudden you come into a system where your coach says, "Okay, I want you to play a little," the transition was hard.
Yeah, kind of more robotish,
right?
To a certain extent.
And so, coming up freshman, sophomore, junior year, doing structure, and then being told your senior year, "Okay, let's freelance a little," that was a struggle.
Yeah.
But what I took from that was the fact that it taught me a little more about basketball.
Yeah.
Which, when I came here, I said, what's going to work best for us?
Yeah.
Well, structure is going to handcuff these guys, and open style and letting them play and use their athletic ability is going to really help these kids.
Okay. Now, how long have you been at St. Mary's?
This is I'm going to my 11th year. 11th
Okay.
year in my 21st year of coaching.
Okay. Yeah. Now let's go to the Notre Dame after you left Sacred Heart. How was that?
Very interesting. It was a Division II school that just transitioned from 3 to 2. So we went to a new league with San Francisco State, with Hayward, Stanislaus, and I found out that it was, even though it was Division II, a lot of the schools had kids that went to D1 and happened to end up in D2, and it was a learning experience, as in, like, wow, it's really physical.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to be able to play right away, because of what Jerry Phillips and Tim Burke had. I knew how to play basketball. I knew knew my role, and that's one thing I learned from Coach Hobby, was that he talked to every kid about, this is the role on the team. And so that's another piece of coaching that I took with me, is sitting down and taking the time to know each kid personally, and then letting them know, this is how you fit into the team.
And Notre Dame now what are they, in the Pac West with BYU, Hawaii, Chaminade?
Yes, I believe also
Dominican Academy of Art.
Correct.
So that's still a pretty good Division II. I know BYU Hawaii was just in the Division II title game 2 years ago, so that's still a really good Division II conference.
It's a very competitive league. Got some great players in that league.
And they do get a lot of D1 transfers.
Yes, they do.
So what did you major in college?
Latin American Studies.
Okay.
Used to be Spanish. They changed Latin American with a minor in psychology.
Were you planning on heading back to Spain after that, or?
I wanted to. I wanted to see if I could play back in Spain, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
It didn't happen, so it set my path in a different way.
And what did you do right after school?
Right after school, after I graduated, I did some coaching at the grammar school level, St. Veronica's in South San Francisco, and kept in touch with Tim Burke. I worked some retail jobs, just making ends meet and doing everything I could. And then Coach Burke actually offered me the freshman B job at Sacred Heart in 1992.
Now, when you say B job, I don't think most people understand. Some schools have a freshman A team and a freshman B team. Those are the schools who just have enough kids that they can have 2 teams. Now, coaching grammar school, what can you learn from coaching grammar school other than let the kids play and have fun? What is it that you have to be able to learn something at that level?
Well, what you learn is patience. Because if you're coming from college and then all of a sudden you're taking 11, 12-year-olds, and if you can get them to run a practice for 45 minutes where they actually listen to you, you're successful. So I learned patience. I learned that just because they couldn't run a play wasn't the end. just seeing them make a basket and seeing them smile, winning a game, and just seeing the camaraderie, and the snacks after were enjoyable.
All right.
And the parents just love the fact that they had somebody that was actually teaching them the game of basketball. I don't know how many times parents would come up and they would say, it's so nice to have somebody that played and actually teach them how to dribble, teach them how to jump stop, do all these things. And I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, a lot of times it's just a parent who really didn't know the game.
What was the time frame you were there?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
2 years.
All right.
Yeah. Practicing outdoors in the concrete.
All right. And then after that, you moved on to the freshman B team.
Correct.
Back at your alma mater, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. First, I was so proud to be able to coach where I went to school.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know how other coaches feel in their process of starting out. But to me, it was I had a great sense of pride. I loved it. I was able to learn from Coach Burke and from Coach John Perez, who was the assistant coach there, just how to really teach from beginning of a season and make it all the way through.
Okay.
And I think that's what's important, not just now, but you think future, you think down the road, and evaluating talent. That really helped. And teaching 12 kids that come from different grammar schools how to be a team. Your role as a freshman coach is not about winning, and that's where I learned from them. They sat me down and said, look, we're not looking for you to win. We're looking for you to teach the following things. Offensively, we want you to do this. Defensively, we want you to teach them this. But most importantly, get them acclimated to our program.
Isn't that something you still do if you're a freshman coach?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
All
absolutely. Right. I brought all that stuff that they taught me, I brought it into the St. Mary's program.
And what was the timetable for you as a freshman coach? What years were it?
92 till 98.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent 6 years freshman B's into the A's, and then moved up to the JVs as associate head coach. And then there was a coaching change at Sacred Heart. Tim Burke retired, and John Perez took over. Okay. And John had been the assistant for 16 years. Very loyal guy, actually a big mentor to me. And then when he took the job, I became his assistant.
Okay.
He's a big part of why I am where I'm at this point.
Now, how was the West Catholic School League back then? How was it compared to how it is now?
It really hasn't changed, to be honest with you. I mean, some great basketball players, some great coaches that spend a lot of hours scouting, breaking down film, and not just during the season, even during the summer. You had to keep up with everybody because it was a 7-team league back then. Valley Christian, San Jose came in later on, but it was 12 tough games, kind of like how this new league is going to be.
And the Catholic School League over there, their students, I mean, come to the games with all kind of chants. They're dressed up.
Oh yeah.
They're jumping around in the stands.
Yeah.
That's something that I would like to see a lot more high schools try to emulate.
I agree,
because they do a really good job with that. So when you were there at Sacred Heart, did you learn your X's and O's there, or was it a process over a span of time?
It was a process over a span of time. Took pieces from when I was a player, from Jerry Phillips and Tim Burke, from Coach Hobby in college. But I would say where my majority of X's and O's that I learned was from my 3 years with Coach Perez.
Okay.
He came in and introduced some new concepts that I really never knew about, from defensively to offensively to pressing. That's where the run and jump initiated with us at Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart really never did that. He brought that in, and actually he brought it in. Even the half-court defense, the high side and the midline. Okay. A lot of the things that we do now, that I do, is because of what he taught.
And offensively, what did you learn from him?
I learned pushing the ball and getting easy baskets really makes kids buy into the entire philosophy of coaching. Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to nowadays where kids got to see the ball in the hole. It gets them to rebound, gets them to play better defense.
Correct.
And I think that's kind of when it changed around 93, 94. but a little bit different style of basketball. So after you were there, what was your next process? What was the next step? Where were you headed to next?
Well, I knew that before I could take over a job, I needed to be prepared. And you know, if there's any advice I could give to a young coach, is be sure that you're ready to run a program.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times coaches take over programs, and they feel that it's just coaching the varsity.
Yeah.
You're going to be most successful if you take over and make it a program. Make your freshmen feel part of the program. Make your JVs feel. Make your coaches feel part of the whole process.
Yeah.
And that's where I was headed. I knew at some point I was going to be a head coach.
Okay.
I just didn't know where, or if even I wanted to do that. I really needed to kind of reflect and say, because I know it's a lot of time, and you know it's a lot of time.
A lot of time, especially if you're teaching there.
Right, and so can I manage both? Because what I don't want to do is take over and shortchange the kids.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I want to give them my 100% and not be sidetracked because I got to do this. You really got to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And goal oriented.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Okay.
So that was why I spent 3 years with John.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so when you got here to St. Mary's, I can share a story for you. 93, 94, I was an 8th grader. So I came here to visit St. Mary's. Me and Russell came. People don't know the extent of our relationship. Sometimes they just have no clue. We came here to visit St. Mary's, 93, 94. This is at the height of St. Joseph's. Ray Young was huge. I mean, the gym was packed there. I applied to come to school here, got accepted to come here also, and I was just shocked. I mean, I had never seen a kid of Ray Young's stature. I mean, coming from 8th grade, I was pretty good in the 8th grade.
Sure.
But seeing this kid, I mean, his calves, his legs were huge, and that was before. I can't think of his name. The coach that passed, he was still the coach there.
Okay.
So that's my short little story with St. Mary's. So what year did you actually get here?
August of 2002.
Okay. And how was that? How was St. Mary's basketball then?
Well, it was a transition from prior coach Jose Carballo to from what I've been told, a different person.
Yeah.
Just in regards to just how I coached.
Yeah.
The transition was difficult the first year, because once again you're taking over a program where another coach had put a stamp on it.
Yeah.
And you had kids who had played for him for 3 years, and you had some kids that were part of their state championship team.
Yeah.
So it's always hard when somebody new comes in. Change is hard, whether it's for adults or whether it's for kids.
Yeah.
So it was probably 1 year, that my first year I learned a lot. I learned 10 years worth of information.
Okay.
With those kids, and I still keep in touch with a lot of those kids, and you always, I wish I could have done things differently, but I think in the long run it was the best for them and for me.
Now you have a kid on your staff, Freeman. He's part of the Jose era.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So you are bridging the gap.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, how's it? So you got here in 2002. You guys have had kind of a remarkable run here recently and in the past. How's that been? As far as how have you seen things change from 2002 to 2012, and just as far as the kids, your offensive philosophies versus your defensive philosophies, how have they changed from 2002?
Well, it's changed. The last couple of years has changed dramatically. With regards to just what kids that we have now are able to do, and the kids that we had before. I mean, athletic ability. I mean, you either have it or you don't.
Okay.
When those years that we had from, and this goes back when I did Larry Gerganis, to the Brews, to the Lees, and in between there are other kids who were also pretty athletic. It was a lot easier for them to do well in our running and pressing system, where now, as we've learned the last couple of years, we've had to kind of tweaked a little bit of it and pick and choose our spots. Before it was just basically like as soon as the horn went off, we're going 4 quarters. We're getting pressure for 4 quarters.
Because I've noticed from just coaching against you from last year and this past season is that you are running more sets and you have slowed the game down. But I think, like you said, a lot of that is because you don't have as much athleticism and you had the Brew twins, you had the Lee twins, and you had some other kids that could flat out get up and down the court. And I think that makes it easier for you as a coach where you can't control them all the time.
True.
But then you do have the kids where you got to stand up and you got to call every play and you kind of got to stalk the sidelines a little bit. How has that changed for you? Is that something that you like to do, or would you prefer to kind of hands back and let them?
Well, honestly, I would love to just be able to sit back and let them do their thing. But for whatever reason, my assistant coaches continuously say, Manny, your team feeds off your energy. And I said, yeah, it's great when you're 30, but as you get into your 40s, you know, just like you said, stalking the sidelines, it looks a little bit immature-ish at some points. It really does. But it's just, again, and you played, it's hard to get rid of that competitive mentality, even as you progress to coaching. I still have some of that competitive player in me. And a lot of times I think it's misconstrued as you're acting immature. No, I'm just being competitive. And I had to be, and I had to learn to be competitive because I always had to fight to get, like I told you before, open gyms, and I just always had to fight for whatever I could get. And that's the personality that I want my teams to take. You asked what were some of the changes that I've seen in the last 2-3 years. I don't feel our kids are as tough as the prior kids that we had. And that's because things change. There's more interest that the kids get into. The teams that we had great success, it was like you didn't have to tell them what time to be at practice. They knew what time practice was. You didn't have to, stop play and say, hey, you guys got to raise your level. Your team leaders raised the level. And that's different now. The last couple of years, I'm seeing the transition that we got to teach kids to be leaders. You have to sit down and have conversations with them. Where before it kind of took care of itself.
Okay. Now, offensively, what do you like to do?
Well, I like to get that ball out quickly. I like 5 guys on the floor. Whoever gets the rebound, initiate the break. I think that makes you more dangerous of a team. Traditionally, high school teams have one guy that brings the ball up. Guy gets a rebound, look for the 1, get it to the 1, or get it to the 2. I never liked that philosophy because what you do is so he can only handle the ball. What about me? I might be working on it. So you give an opportunity. As long as you work at it in practice, of course, you can't just say, okay, let's just. But you give an opportunity to other kids to bring the ball up the court. Traditionally we're not a team that gets a 6'10" guy. So we're going to say you're just going to go play the post.